getting to the Super Bowl, where you have a quarterback who is taken 10th overall against a quarterback. There's your transition who is taken 53rd overall, one being Mahomes and one being Jalen Hurts. There is going to be a lot said in the next week about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I'm not going to go down the dark rabbit hole of conspiracy theorists about the officiating of the Chiefs and Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Please, I beg of you, spare me. And better yet, spare yourself. There are far more constructive things to do, far better thought exercises one could do to spend a day and to lead a better life. But I do find it interesting, the inevitable comparisons that we will hear this week, because Tom Brady is calling the game on Fox with the great Kevin Burkhardt, my neighbor, the Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady comparisons. If Mahomes can win 3 straight, which would be amazing, more importantly, it would be unprecedented. Will he pass Tom Brady? Should we have the conversation that now Mahomes is the greatest of all time? Please, I beg of you, stop. Since when is 4 better than 7? Mahomes has 3. If he wins this, he'll have 4 amazing Lombardi trophies, 4 undeniable championships. But last I checked, Tom Brady has 7. So the mere fact that the Chiefs could win 3 in a row doesn't make the guy over here the best when the guy over here has more. As far as I know, 7 will always be greater than 4. I don't know why this is a conversation. I don't know why I'm getting fired up about it. I don't know why I'm reacting to people screaming on TV about it, but I guess I am. 7 is still greater than 4. When Patrick Mahomes gets to 7, we can have the conversation. But until he gets to 7, there is no conversation. It's an example of filling space and time and coming up with new topic bars and new content. It's what you call in the business feeding the beast. It's not a legitimate topic nor a legitimate conversation. Why then, Andrew, am I even going down that road? I honestly don't know. I just wanted to put that to rest before we get to New Orleans. 7 is still greater than 4, even though I know we're 31st in math worldwide. I know we're 31st in math, but nobody, even if we're 31st in math as a country, thinks that 4 is greater than 7, because it is not. 7 is still greater than 4.
I love what you've boiled this down to. And oftentimes this is, again, LeBron and Jordan brought this up numerous times. I would say that's still actually a very heated debate in NBA circles, LeBron and Jordan. And the easiest solution for those on the Jordan side is to say 6 for 6 in the finals, 6 finals MVPs. That's simple math. You boiled this down to a very simple equation as well, 7 versus 4. And I think that's okay. I do want to give a little credence to the idea that Mahomes could do something Brady didn't. Now, what happens is the reason this even becomes a conversation is because there are so few things from a quarterback standpoint that Brady didn't do. I mean, just think about it from an accomplishment standpoint. There are so few opportunities to even say, oh, well, Tom Brady didn't do that. To have 7, to have more than any other franchise is terrifying enough. And on Fox, when the top of the bar comes up, 7-time Super Bowl champion, we all should kind of shudder. It's staggering. It truly is. And it's not as if, and this is not someone who rode the coattails on the way to 7 championships either. So there's that. But I want to just say a couple of things. 3 in a row would be, because it becomes 4, at least to the conversation. I think if you're starting to click the clock forward, it at least now says, oh, this is realistic. I'm now going to make an argument for each side of it real quick with simple math for everyone out there. Number 1 is this. Remember that Patrick Mahomes, you could talk yourself into the idea that Patrick Mahomes, could have, would have, should have, maybe he had more Super Bowl victories if you look at who was in his way and what happened. But if you go back and look, yes, he lost an AFC championship to Joe Burrow. But remember, he lost an AFC championship in the 2018 season in overtime to Tom Brady. And he lost a Super Bowl
to Tom Brady
in Tampa.
Isn't that kind of proving the point?
Yes. So that's to go down that road to say that the two of those right there. So that's two that Mahomes didn't get. And not only that he didn't get, that Brady really, I won't say took from him, but Mahomes is in the wake of Brady on the way to 2 trophies for Brady. Beat Mahomes on his way in 2018 and directly through for the 2020 season. So that automatically says, all right, we've even got this head to head. I mean, tiebreak often is head to head, right? And we didn't get to see Jordan versus LeBron, so we won't get to say that. But to the fact that we had exceptional rosters quarterbacked by these two head to head at a time when we really all thought we thought Mahomes was going to be Tampa in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, definitively from a Vegas standpoint, et cetera.
I don't remember anymore.
From a Vegas
who
standpoint,
I was picking.
Sure, but from a Vegas standpoint, it was the Chiefs that seemingly were the better team going.
The Bucs were also at home. It was during COVID. But by the way, it was the only Super Bowl. I'm very fortunate to say this. In the last 25 years that I did not go to either A, the game, or B, something that week.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I remember that.
You know what that was called? That was called game dropping.
You're right. That not name dropping, but game dropping, which you're able to do. I also was in snowy Connecticut for that game and for that week as well, watching the Sun in Tampa. And that was a game where you should can definitively say, I mean, Mahomes didn't even throw a touchdown pass in that game in the Super Bowl against the Bucs. And then, of course, we remember overtime rules were not rewritten for Mahomes. Maybe they should have in 2018. They wrote him for Josh Allen against Mahomes later, but that was an unfair one where the Chiefs were seemingly better. D Ford jumped off sides for those that want to relive that, but D Ford jumped off sides in what could have been the Chiefs winning that game. That was the end of that drive for the Patriots. Instead, they ended up forcing overtime and winning to Gronk in overtime in a play that apparently Josh McDaniels drew up on a napkin in the hotel that morning. But
what did he drop on a napkin? I hereby resign as head coach of the
yes,
Colts.
Exactly. Okay. So there was that. So that's the argument that says Brady gets this easily. So the GOAT thing ends there. But in the idea of could be GOAT, I just want to walk down this path quickly. Super Bowl appearances. Brady, at the time he was in his 5th Super Bowl, heading to his 5th Super Bowl, was 34 years old. Patrick Mahomes is heading to his 5th. He is 29 years old. Now, there's 2 amazing things there. Number one, it's amazing that Brady got to another 5 after he was 34 years old. That's ridiculous in and of itself.
He had 3 careers.
Yes, but 29 years old for Mahomes at 5 means how many more could there be? We all think that if Reid and Mahomes stick together, that this rides as long as Mahomes is on the field and as long as Andy is on that sideline. So you start to stack it up. When things start lining up again and again and again, we have this tendency to think it will never end. And this is 5 Super Bowl appearances, you could say over the last 6 seasons. And in the season they didn't go, they lost in overtime in the AFC Championship. And extend it 1 year further, in the last 7 seasons, it's 5 Super Bowl appearances and 2 overtime losses in the AFC Championship. So he's right there in our minds every single time we look up in championship weekend or the Super Bowl. We're seeing Mahomes and we're saying to ourselves, wow, he's got a shot to get something Brady has.
Yeah, these are all, and I love you, man, future tenses.
Yes, they are. That one was.
Do this. If they keep going.
Yes.
He could be considered. It's until he wins 7. Like that's what something. Until he wins 7, then we can have the conversation. There's literally no conversation to have. Like, yes. I respect all the points you made. They're all valid. When you boil it all down, though, for someone to say that if Mahomes wins this, if the Chiefs collectively as a team win this, and that would be for Mahomes his 4th, that 4, because 3 of them came consecutively, therefore makes him better than Brady, who won 7. It's like if Levi came to you and said, Levi, sorry to bring your son into this, Sam, lovely kid, love him. If he came to you and said, Dad, I have 4 M&Ms.
Ooh.
How many do you have? And you would say, I have 7. And if he said, I have more than you. You'd say, no, you don't.
Nope.
You go, no. He said, I have better M&Ms than you.
But Daddy, I got 3 that are red M&Ms.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, no one likes the red M&Ms.
No, true. Yeah.
They're bad for you. I have 7 M&Ms, and none of them are red. It doesn't matter. Like, you are a greater possessor, a greater owner of M&Ms than your adorable kid. Okay.
I love that it is as simple as that. 7-4, and I am agreeing with you. I represented the other side, but I'm simply agreeing that in this one, it is a future conversation. We are essentially trying to get in a time machine and have a conversation that we can have. If the 2 greatest letters in sports, I've always said it to you, the 2 greatest letters in sports, I and F.
Yes. What would have happened if the Rams in 2012 had actually gotten the number 1 overall pick? If Phil Dawson hadn't missed an extra point in 2011 and the Rams hadn't gotten an extra win, and they would have picked 1, not 2. They picked 2, they traded, and the Commanders, the Washington football team, took RG3. If they had gotten to 1, they would have taken Andrew Luck. I can tell you that right now. And then what would have happened? How would football history be different? Discuss what would have happened. Go ahead.
I actually heard this for this particular argument that we're actually framing this argument more than we're having it. But for this argument, the worst point I saw for sure was, what if Mahomes had won the Super Bowl in Tampa? Would that change this conversation?
No.
Which is maybe, well, first of all, it's also it's the reason
so
it's
this
awful.
Would give him 5, and then Brady would have 6.
6.
Okay. 6 is still better.
6 is more than 4 than 5. But the reason that's the most ridiculous, first of all, you and I agree on one point, which is this. My least favorite argument is, if not for. Even during a game, if not for the 60-yard touchdown run by Barkley to start the NFC Championship, the Commanders actually held him to 58 yards the rest of the game. So if not for his greatest play of the game, this would have happened, right? If not for Peyton Manning's Super Bowl against the Bears, what do we think of his career? Oh, so if not for his greatest accomplishment,
if not for Mark Andrews dropping that pass,
right.
If not for the coin toss between Mahomes and Allen, if not for Rich Carlos's field goal at the end of the '86 championship game incorrectly being called good, right? What if? Okay. What if Andrew's laptop ran out of power during this podcast? Let's look at the power.
Where are we going?
We're at 12% remaining.
Okay, so that means let's hit it hard.
Let's do our final topic.
Let's do some awards here.
Okay. I only want to plant a flag here on Defensive Player of the Year. One last year by Browns defensive end Myles Garrett. Defensive Player of the Year. The Browns made the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year. Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year. The Pro Football Writers Association of America last week, Pro Football Writers of America gave out their DPOI. They gave it to Patrick Surtain, the corner in Denver, had a fantastic season. If he wins, he deserves it. Absolutely. Also in the conversation, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals defensive end who week 18 had 3.5 sacks against the Steelers and ended up leading the NFL in sacks with 17.5. I will now make the argument that, and he just won the Sporting News Defensive Player of the Year this year, last week, actually like 2 days ago. I want to make the argument that Myles Garrett should win back-to-back DPOYs. Let me give you some numbers. Myles Garrett this year had a pressure rate of 18.2. Advanced metrics here. That was the highest in the NFL. He also led the league in pass rush grade. PFF number, 92.8. Total pressures, he had 83, third most in the league. Pass rush win rate, 23.1, the highest in the league. Pass rush productivity rating, 10.6. That is the highest in the league. Myles Garrett had a league high 22 TFLs, 22 tackles for a loss. I will make the argument a TFL is as important as a sack. If I beat the man in front of me and I take the ball carrier down in the backfield, whether he be quarterback or running back, and it is a net loss on the play behind the line of scrimmage for the offense, what's the difference? Sacks are the home runs of baseball, but TFLs are the doubles and triples, and they are just as productive. If I sack a quarterback for a 5-yard loss, how is that any better than me hitting the running back in the backfield and dropping him for a 5-yard loss? There really is no difference. Myles Garrett led the NFL with 22 TFLs. And then this number, final number, he was double teamed on a career high 30% of pass rush reps. His advanced numbers this year were better than his advanced numbers in 2023 when he won DPOY. If his numbers are better this year, you need to overlook the 4-13. He should win. Myles Garrett should win DPOY in back-to-back seasons. I meant what I said. Give it to him again. Trey Hendrickson, great year. Pat Surtain, great year. TJ Watt, very good year as well. I think Myles Garrett's the best defensive player in football. Every single offensive coordinator comes into the plan. The plan is stop Myles Garrett. When Zadarius Smith was traded at the deadline, Isaiah McGuire had a great season for the Browns. He did. Played the heck out of that other edge, stopped the run, got in the backfield, TFLs. But when it came to pure pass rushers, especially when JOK got hurt, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Myles Garrett was the guy you doubled and triple teamed every single snap. 14 sacks, and his advanced metrics were better. Give him DPOY again.
Only one thing to say here. The 4 wins. Now, MVP is very interesting because it involves the word valuable. And I would argue that I'm not upset about wins playing a factor when you look at most valuable player. I think that's okay to have value to a team. It helps when your team is also valuable to what happens in regards to getting to the playoffs. That seems fair. Defensive player of the year, I think is different here. I also think the 4 wins is an argument for, not against, Myles Garrett. The idea, as you said, he is the number 1 player to game plan when facing the Browns. And this is a team in a season that is not going as well. And theoretically, there are players around him that are not at the level of every one of the other players that you just mentioned who had better seasons. Every single one of those players on the finalist list had a better outcome from a wins and losses standpoint. What Myles Garrett has to do week in and week out on a team that is struggling is more difficult, not less difficult than what he did last year in a season that went better. I'm just arguing for you here. I understand that, but Patrick Surtain does not deserve more credit for the idea that the Broncos made the playoffs.
He had a great year,
that the Browns did not.
He
very much did. Everyone on this list did.
Yeah.
And only one other thing I want to say is the idea that Zach Bond is a finalist for this award is the most stunning thing that we saw.
The Eagles linebacker.
The Eagles linebacker,
fantastic
Zach
year,
Bond.
and he was wreaking havoc in the postseason as well.
He's kept it going, and we know that this is a regular season award. But the idea that Zach Bond, from a free agent standpoint, and I know you hate when we just say every move the Eagles make is great. It's not true. It certainly is not.
This one was. Yeah.
And this is one that was not. This was not celebrated. This was not a move this was not. Oh, the Eagles won free agency because Zach Bond was gotten from the Saints. This was a stunning surprise that Zach Bond had an impact on this defense the way that he did in the first season without Fletcher Cox. Obviously, what Jalen Carter did, incredible. But Zach Bond's a name that when you look at this list, and I even think 100 years from now, when we look back at this list, it's going to be incredible that Zach Bond is on that. And that's it. And one final thing, the idea that the Bengals had the leading passer, the leading receiver, and the leading sack amasser in a season that they did not go to the playoffs is just ridiculous. I still just don't even understand how that's possible.
Yeah. You know what? Every interview Joe Burrow gives in the postseason, in the offseason, and at the Pro Bowl games, by the way, Drake May, Pro Bowl quarterback, thumbs up, asked the same questions. Like, how did you guys not do it? And yeah, How much should they pay T. Higgins? Anyway, I digress. My computer is truly about to die. I have turned the screen off on my laptop. Are we on? Can you still hear me?
We are still on.
Okay. Time to say goodbye before this thing crashes. That is Sam. My name is Andrew. We'll figure out Super Bowl week, but I guarantee you we'll be back. This is another edition. We thank you for listening, subscribing, liking, and sharing, and telling your friends and neighbors and Romans and countrymen about it. Thinking out loud. So long, everybody.
All right.
I literally turned the screen off for the last 2 minutes.